fighting or reality fighting. It doesn't consider striking, eye gouging, or biting. Of course, some of the things that you learn in this series could be applied to those arenas, but this tape doesn't address how you would do that. Finally, we want to talk a little bit about safety. On your submissions, always obtain control of your opponent first. Put him in a position where he can't flail about and hurt himself by accident. Secondly, apply the submission very slowly. Give your opponent a chance to tap. If he's too stubborn or proud to tap, let it go. It's not worth it. Don't hurt your opponent just to prove a point. Next, chokes. Apply the pressure on chokes to the sides of the neck. Avoid applying direct pressure to the front of the neck. This can crush your opponent's larynx, possibly leading to his death, so be very careful on how you apply chokes. Heel hooks are also very dangerous. There's a very small window between the time that you feel pain and the time when your knee ligaments start to tear. So if you must use heel hooks, apply them very, very slowly. Communicate with your opponent. We actually recommend that you just go to the positions and don't apply any pressure. Show your opponent that you have the position, that you can hold it, and then go on to something else. Try for the straight ankle lock, which is a little safer. Finally, the most important safety point concerns neck cranks. Neck crank can break your opponent's neck and paralyze him for life. Therefore, we recommend that you never use neck cranks when you're sparring with your wrestling partners or in contest. We show these on the tape so you'll understand what the positions are, because there will be people who try to use them on you, and you need to know how to defend yourself against them. Finally, if you have any questions, you can email us at questions@practicalgrappler.com. Thanks for purchasing the tape.
I'm going to tell you about 7 simple but very important concepts that we at the Practical Grappler feel are essential to have in order to be an effective wrestler. Number 1 is composure. Composure is a result of having a relaxed state of mind, which then allows a grappler to perform with finesse and control. And this is a crucial trait to possess. You see, without composure, it's extremely difficult to learn or execute this game. Plus, by going into a match with a thoughtless and frenzied frame of mind will not only drain you of needed energy, but may get you into trouble with a more experienced and methodical opponent. Related is number 2, breathing. Regulated breathing in a wrestling context is the ability to maintain a consistent inhale and exhale throughout your competition or sparring. I know some grapplers that institute breathing techniques from yoga, but find what's comfortable for you. The method I use is to try and keep my mouth closed and regulate my breathing through my nose only. But again, experiment and find what works for you. Number 3 is balance and base. Balance or base is simply the ability to distribute body weight in a proper way to maximize leverage at any position or direction. This ability is greatly important in modes of offense, defense, as well as various stalemated positions. For example, I'll show you that by simply going from the dorsal part of your feet, or the top, to the balls of your feet and vice versa will give you an incredible boost in balance and base. Number 4 is awareness and anticipation. This is simply knowing where you and your opponent's body positions are at all times, which allows you to be able to recognize any situation and then react appropriately, whether offensively or defensively. In order to maintain a level of success in the sport, especially against more experienced grapplers, requires a sharp sense of alertness. Now, gaining experience with these 2 concepts will ultimately determine your success rate. Number 5 is timely speed and power. This is simply performing movements in the most efficient manner to conserve energy and maintain control. Saving traits such as speed and power for transitions and finishing moves allows concentration to be focused towards steady control of the opponent. This concept will be evident throughout this study. Number 6 is setups. These are tactics used to trick an opponent to a particular move by disguising their true intentions. You see, the more experienced your opponent is, the more difficult it will be to gain control and even get a submission attempt, let alone a submission. This concept will require you to remain patient and divert your opponent's attention to get a chance for a submission. For example, if I'm wrestling, it may look as if I'm focusing on my opponent's arm, when actually my attention is directed towards a leg or an ankle that's susceptible. The point is that if I'm a good enough actor, my opponent will expect a submission attempt of his arm and further leave his leg unprotected. Number 7 is modifying. Use your own style and creativity to modify your grappling game. Whether it's researching other grappling sources or applying your own personal strong points such as flexibility, strength, speed, size, etc., don't be afraid to adjust your grappling game to help improve it. But realize that this outline establishes a necessary foundation that is needed for you to build upon. So take the time to ingrain these concepts as we go through the outline and notice when they may come into play for you. And that concludes phase 1. So at this point I'd like to introduce my assistant, Chris Winget, who will be demonstrating these common movements while I explain them for you. And number 1 is shrimping. Now you'll see this both offensively and defensively, primarily defensively. But Chris is going to vacuum his hips up to the right, and he's pushing off with his right foot. Now, as he does it again, we're going to break it down in slow motion. So as he's doing the movement, all of his weight is on the foot and the shoulder, on his right foot and his left shoulder. You can see he's lifting his hips up in the air. Okay? That's what you want to achieve. So as he goes back to the starting position, that's the movement. Okay? Now, that's the finishing phase. And you can see that his rear end is well above his head. Okay? He's exaggerating, and that's what I want you to do. I want you to exaggerate all these movements because you tend to do it right if you're exaggerating. So one more time. Pretty simple. If you're vacuum up to the right, you're pushing off with your right foot. He's going to the left, pushing off with his left foot. Pretty simple. All right, number 2 is supine feed throw. Again, more of a defensive movement, but what's happening? Again, it's similar to before in that all of his weight is on his shoulder and his foot. In this instance, he's feeding this bottom leg through, so all of his weight is on his left foot and his right shoulder. So again, feeding through, and he's on his elbows and knees. So back to the starting position. Let's do it one more time. Weight's on his left foot, right shoulder, feeding through, back to his elbows and knees. Now, number 3 is prone feed through. You're just doing this in reverse. So once you've supined, you're in a prone position, you're feeding back through. You're just going in reverse. Okay? Just like that. Now, back to the starting position. What he's doing is, we break this down slowly, he's leaning forward. See how his head's turned? His weight's on his shoulder. Okay? Feeds the leg through. Now, stop. His weight's on his left shoulder and his right foot again. He's feeding through. Okay, he's back to his back again. One more time. Lean forward, feeding through. Okay, no big deal. All right, we're now going to do the supine rollback, which you can do a there. Okay, now there's something I want to point out to you here. It's important. You have to turn your head. If you don't turn your head, you're going to risk injury. Okay, so see what he's doing? He's actually pointing that arm out at an angle. He's going to look down his arm, bring his knee straight over the top of his head, end up real nice and flowing like on his knees. So again, he's pointing, turning his head to take away the pressure, take the knees directly back over the top of the head, back on his knees. One more time. All right, directly over the back. Back on his knees. Let's give him an opposite angle. See, it's the same thing. Just be sure to point the arm and look down your arm, get that angle so you won't risk neck injury. All right, we're now going to do the prone roll forward. Again, you're going in reverse. So what's happening is Chris is going to tuck all the weight again, taking it off the neck, on the shoulder, and rolling. Now you notice that he ended up on a straight line. He ended up in the direction where he started. Okay, you're probably going to have a little bit of difficulty with that if you're inexperienced. But let me show you how he's doing that. As he's tucking, okay, his arms are acting as rudders and they're directing him, okay, and pointing and directing him back into a straight line. So you're going to use that to find your opponent in these instances. So one more time, he's tucking on the shoulder, ended up in a straight line. Okay, good. All right, we're now going to number 6. It's supine and prone grabbing. Pretty simple. Looks a lot like break dancing, but what it does, it gets you used to handling your own body weight. A little agility here. Good little workout. And you're just changing directions at will. And it's really feeding through prone and supine. Getting used to doing your own body. Pretty simple. Don't have to spend a lot of time on that. Now we have 7, which is supine turn touches. And again, this gets you used to that angle. Throughout all this, you're going to use angles to maximize your leverage. So, good. As you can see, he's again using that angle, pushing off. If he's pointing to his right with his left hand, he's pushing off with his left foot. Using it, getting used to those angles. That's what you want to achieve here. Okay. Good. That's what you have to work on. Great. All right. As I stated earlier, make these movements a habit. You'll realize the value of these mechanics in every aspect of your grappling. So practice, 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 and that concludes phase 2. We're back with phase 3, defense, position, protection. Realize that you're going to be in trouble against your opponent's position first before his submission comes. So it's very important to understand and perform proper position protection. A guarded position protection. Now, Chris is going to attempt to perform the open guard, and I'm going to show you how to protect yourself against that. So, open guard is he has his legs open and trying to work some kind of offense in that manner. So, my first defensive position is called immediate arms through. Now, in immediate arms through, I'm on the balls of my feet, both feet, and I'm on my knees. At the same time, both arms are going through. Palms on the mat. Also, they're fairly close to the hips. My elbows are kicked out. Okay, this hampers his ability to get his feet inside of my legs. Also, my head is up and watching what he's doing. Okay? So both hands go through, palms to the mat, elbows out, and I'm watching what he's doing. Okay? I'm protecting myself. Pretty simple. Next movement is the elbow knee crouch. And go back out for a minute, Chris. This is how I'm going to defend myself. The elbow knee crouch. Now again, one leg, I'm on the ball of my foot. The other leg is posted up. The foot's approximately that distance in front of my knee. I'm also leaning on my leg, on my thigh right here, on my chest. This gives me really good balance forward and back. And I'm using his open guard, his legs, and the open guard as balancers for the sides. Okay? So as he moves back in, and also, no matter who the opponent is, I'll put this toe near the rear end. It gives me a constant reference there. So, again, I react with the elbow knee crouch. Get into position, as I explained, and ride his legs and watching what he's doing, protecting myself, okay, in this position. Good. Now, we're going to do it with B, and that's a closed guard. He's going to attempt what's called a closed guard. And a closed guard is where he clasps his feet around me. Perhaps I'm a little late in reacting with the two techniques previous. So, in this instance, I'll have to go to what's called a clamp down. This time, I'm on the flats of my feet, the tops of my feet. Okay? I spread my knees out. At the same time, my elbows are coming in inside the legs, against his hips. Okay, I'm controlling his hips a little bit here. Now, at this point, I just clamp down on him and maintain this position, protecting myself. So, as I get pulled in, again, as I get pulled into this position, I flatten the feet out, spread out the knees, elbows go inside the legs, okay, against his hips, clamp down, maintain this position, okay, good, protect. Now we're going to be dealing with a couple of different cross mounts, and in this instance, Chris is going to be protecting himself. I'm going to be on the offense. Now I'm going to be, offensively, I'm going to be performing what's called a cross mount, as I said, and my objective is to pressure him, okay? And it's very uncomfortable if you don't know what you're doing. So, as I initiate this movement, what Chris has to do is get proper arm position and get on his side. Okay? So, right off the bat, you can see that he has both elbows in, shoulders are shrugged up, kind of protecting himself, and that's what he's supposed to do. He's not going to get his arms caught. So as I go into this cross mount, and this is a common cross mount position here, he's going to bump his hips up to get his arms in position. Okay? Now, here's what his arms look like. We'll go flat from there. His inside arm is going directly across my abdomen. Okay? Just like this. That keeps me from putting pressure on him with my hips. Okay? The other arm is going around my back underneath this arm. Okay? Ideally. Now, once he's bumped his hips up and gotten his arm into position, he's going to go on his side. Okay? Here's how he does it. He brings his heels in as close as he can to his rear end, takes his hips up as far up in the air as possible, and then kind of shrinks to the side to face him. Okay? Still the arms are in position. Okay? Let's get an opposite view of that. So from this side, he's protecting his arms initially. He bumps his hips up in the air to get his arms in position. From there, let's say he's still flat on his back. Brings his heels in close to his rear end. Hips go up into the air. Shrinks to the side and faces me. Okay? Arms are still in the same position. Okay? He's protected. Okay. Now, the second version of the cross mount is going to be what's called a knee ride. All a knee ride is, from my perspective, the offensive position, I've got a knee into his abdomen, or around his sternum, and I'm putting pressure on this way. This is attacks more towards the arms and the neck. So, all he wants to do is maintain this position, protect his neck, and protect his arms. So I'm in a knee ride. He's got the elbows in tight, shoulders shrugged up, and watching what I'm doing. Okay? But he's really protected right now. That's all you want. Good. Knee ride. We're now going to learn a couple of positions. B, leg balancing. Okay? Again, this is to avoid getting that immense pressure that some people can put on you when they try to cross mount you. So, what's happening is Chris is bumped to his side. Okay? Now, in leg balancing, he's straightening out both legs. And this looks funny, but it's really, really effective. They're 2 to 4 inches off the ground, and he's going to be counterbalancing my pressure. So as I cross mount, I'm just going to use my arms to show you the effectiveness of this. And I'm pressing in, trying to flatten him out. Notice how he's counterbalancing. See, the more I press in, the more he V's his body. Okay, he brings his legs in closer. That's counterbalancing. You can hear the inflection of my voice. I'm trying to press him out flat. Okay? So one more time. He's bumped to his side. And this is if I'm in a full cross mount. His arms are in the same position. Okay? I'm pressing in. And he's counterbalancing the weight. C is leg bracing. Okay, he's going to do a leg brace defense, position protection. Same thing as before, getting on the side. He's going to post a leg back. Okay, good. And press in with his shoulder. Okay, so it's the shoulder and that leg which is allowing him to maintain his position. Okay? He's protected. Pretty simple. So just get to the side, post the leg back, Keep this shoulder pointed in. All right? Also, arms are still in position. Keep that arm on the hip. Okay? You control their hip, you control the pressure. Good. Now, C, we're going to be dealing with a couple of mounted position protections. Again, I'm in what's called a mount. That's when I have both legs, I'm kind of in a saddle look here, and I'm on my opponent. Here's how he protects himself. Again, both elbows in, stay shrugged up. Now, as far as the feet go, two different versions, because as we move to the next phase, we're going to learn escapes. Okay, and this is where this comes into play. He's either going to have both feet as close to the rear end as possible, bringing the heels up, or he's going to have one heel up and one leg flat. Okay? So remember those two and ingrain them. But again, the upper body, elbows are in tight, shoulders are shrugged up to protect the neck, and you're watching what your opponent's doing. One leg up, one leg down, or both legs up. Good. Now, D is the inverted mount position protection. And what's happening here, Chris is on the defense again, as I'm, again, using that pressure, the similar position as that cross mount, except I'm opposite his position. Okay? I'm inverted. Now, something I want to point out to you, and this relates back to the cross mount as well. As I'm going from invert to cross mount, there's a chance that he's going to have his arms out of position, which is not going to be good for him if he doesn't do the correct thing. So I want to point this out to you. As I'm moving from this position, which is invert, back to that cross mount, your elbows stay in, you stay shrugged up. Don't try to beat them to the punch by moving your arms. As I go from here back to cross mount, you just go back to that cross mount protection that we learned earlier. Okay? So remember that. No matter how much they spin, you relax and react as we learned earlier. But as far as the inverted mount goes, I got a couple of positions that I'm going to offensively try on Chris. First one is the arms over pin. So, arms over. This is what it looks like. What Chris wants to do is first point his head to one side so he can breathe. Don't leave your head straight on. Second thing he's going to do is use a seat grip with his hand and put them on my hips to kind of control my hips and sort of. Now, the next thing he's going to do is tighten his elbows up slightly, snug them up. He's not going to use energy. You're not trying to squeeze them. But what you're doing is just maintaining the direction that they go. Okay, you know where their hips are, so you know where they're going to go. So, as they initiate this inverted mount, point your face to one side so you can breathe. Use the seat grip on their hips. Tighten your elbows up. Now the feet, as you can see, the heels are closed. That's correct. And you're in a position of protection against this. Now, that's the arms over. There's another position where the arms go under. This is pretty simple. We've seen this before. Elbows are tied to the side, shoulders are shrugged up, with the exception of this time, the head's turned to the side. Okay? So, as I initiate this position with the arms under, the elbows come in tight, the shoulders shrug up, he turns his head to one side, and he's protected. Okay? So we're protected again. Good. Okay, I hope you can see what I mean. That position protection is very important if you're aware. And it's not that difficult to stay somewhat safe against an opponent's positions. So stay aware and ingrain these defenses, and that concludes phase 3. We're now starting phase 4, defense, position, break, and escape, and transition. In phase 3, we learned how to protect ourselves well enough against our opponent's positions that we can now attempt to escape those same positions. Also notice throughout this phase that there are opportunities to go directly from defense to offense. Now we're going to begin with closed guarded break. And all a break is the opportunity to open up that closed guard, remember where they have their legs clasped around us, to get the opportunity to escape against the open guard. Now, Chris is going to demonstrate how to escape while I explain it to you. And we're going to start with the worst case scenario, which is a double grip trap. Okay, 2 hands around the back of the head. Now what Chris is going to do is do a kick out slip. He's going to see what he's doing with both hands. Okay, using this kind of a method here to go in between my arms. Now he's going basically to the top of his head with his palms. At this point, kicking out both elbows and just doing kind of a little boxer slip to get the head out. Okay? Now one thing that Chris could do, he's not in any danger really from this move. He could just wait it out until I moved. But if he chooses to try to escape, this is the best way to do it. Slipping the hands in, pointing the fingers, kick the elbows out, and then just do a basic slip of the head. Okay? Pretty easy. Now, the next movement that you could possibly see would be a single trap of the head with an arm trap. Okay? All I'm doing is reaching around that arm and trapping his arm. Now, here's how he's going to get out of this. With a kick out and a slip swim. So I'm trapping the head, I'm trapping the arm, and see, this arm's doing the same thing on the side. He's just wedging it in and slipping the head out, okay? It's still that boxer slip. Now with this arm, we're going to leave the head alone for a second. He's doing what's called a swim method. He's bringing it inside, so without me trapping it, it looks sort of like this. Slipping it inside. Okay, so he'll push his shoulder forward just a little bit against me and bring it inside and around. So what you're doing simultaneously, as he gets the head trap and the arm trap, he's wedging the arm in, doing the kick out, while he's slipping the arm around. Okay, one more time. Good, pretty simple. Now, we're going to be dealing with number 3, which is a grip-free closed guard. And we're going to learn what a pop-up stack head row is. And Chris is going to be on the offense in this, and I'm going to demonstrate the defense against this closed guard. Now, we're going to assume we're in that position protection from phase 3. Remember this one? Okay? Where we've spread the knees out on the tops of the feet, elbows in. Now, we're going to pop up and do a stack in a row. And what we're going to do is shoot the arms up. And once they're at the side here, shoot them up across his chest to the neck. At the same time all this is happening, I'm going to my toes. Okay, see that happening? So from here to here. Now, at this point, I'm doing just what the technique says. I'm popping up. Now, it's uncomfortable for your opponent, but this is a painful game. So I'm popping up just like this. All right? Now, as I'm popping up, I'm doing what's called a stack on Chris. That means I'm getting him on the back of the shoulders. Okay? This takes away a lot of his leverage. So as I popped up, I stacked him up and give myself a lot of base. My legs are extremely wide. I'll give you another angle on this in a minute. What's happening at this point is both hands are going around the back of his neck, okay? Back of his neck. At this point, I'm pushing through with my hips and pulling his head to me at the same time. Okay, that gives me the break. Okay? So again, I'm in this position protection. decide this is a technique that I choose to use. My hands run up the chest to the neck. At the same time, I'm going to my toes. From here, all my weight will transfer on his neck as I pop up and stack them at the same time. Just like this. From here, hands go around the back of the neck, pull his head to me while my hips sink through. Just like this. Okay? Back up for a minute. Here's what that looks like without Chris there. I've stacked him up, reach behind the neck, pull the head to me, and sink the hips through. Just like this. Now from this angle, I'm in the position protection. Shoot the arms across, go to the toes at the same time, pop up, stack him, hands go around the neck, pull his head to me, sink the hips through, now I'm broken it open, alright? Now, next technique, B, is called tripod. Here's how we're going to set that up. Again, we can either go off of this from the position protection, perhaps we've gotten the distance off of the kick out slips. But with this particular technique, what we're doing is as it says, we're setting up a tripod. We know that a tripod, if it's set up correctly, is very structurally sound. So here's how we're going to do this. First and foremost, my hips are going to come out. Okay? I'm going to thrust my hips forward. Okay, this puts a little pressure on his clasp right off the bat. I'll give you another angle to see how that works. My hips are thrusted forward. At the same time, my arm is going approximately on the sternum of the chest, right above the abs, and I'm using a flat fist, just like this. He's got plenty of material there, grab it. Grab as much as you can. So the hips are out. I've got this arm in between us here, creating a little distance. Next thing that's happening, my legs are going into position. I'm on my toes at this point. What's happening? My right arm is between us and on his chest. My right leg is going tight to the hip. Okay? Tight to the hip. The other leg, I'll give it about a 6-inch gap. It gives me a little better base. So about a 6-inch gap, point it off on an angle. This other arm goes on the hip and presses down. So hips are out, arm is on the chest, knees are in position, I'm on my toes, and pressing down on this hip. Now what I've done with this knee against the hip and this arm on the hip, I'm controlling his hips. You'll find that throughout this. If you control your hips, and if you have good hip control from your perspective offensively, you're going to be successful. So from here, I'm controlling the hips, and I have my hips through, and I'm just remaining steady in this position. Okay, my head's up, and I'm watching what he's doing. Now from here, I'm just going to maintain control, make sure that I'm steady. What I'm going to do next is break open this position. So we're going to change here. I'm going to show you again what I did from this angle. This is what I mean by having your hips up. A lot of people will keep their weight forward, but he still has a lot of room to move around and move me around. So what I'm doing is thrusting my hips up, and you know you're doing that when you can see that there's distance created under here. That's when I know my hips are up. So without Chris there, I'm going to do what it looks like. So what's happening? My arm goes into position. This is what I mean by hips up. Just pressing them forward. That's all it is. From here to here. Okay, you wouldn't believe how that helps you out. So once I've established this, I've got everything in a position, everything's steady, I'm ready to break this open. Here's how I do that. I can keep this position and apply pressure to this leg and get this open. From here, I'll go back to either palms through or elbow knee crouch. However, the longer their legs are, and the stronger, requires me to weaken that clasp back there even more to open this up. So, to maintain this position, what I'm going to do now is bring that leg that's tied to the hip inside, basically on his rear end, on his butt bone. From here, what I'm doing, this leg that was on the ankle, okay, I'm posting it back. Notice how far I'm posting this leg back. It's not here, because you're going to get it caught. Posting it way back. From here, I'm setting back, basically on my foot, and then applying pressure to that leg again. Okay, really weaken his scissor at that point. So from this angle, what it looks like, I've got in this position, the initial tripod position. What I'm going to do is, he's got strong legs, he has long legs. I have to weaken it further. I'm bringing this leg that's tied to the hip inside. Okay, just like that, on his rear end. This other leg, post it as far back as I can and maintain balance. Set back on that foot, open those legs right up. Sometimes they open up without you applying pressure to the leg. You just create a lot of pressure just by setting back. Okay? So, one last time. I went through the procedure, setting up that tripod. Hips are out. Remember that, it's important. From here, he's got strong legs, long legs. Knee goes inside. Post the leg back. Set back. This time he's hanging on. A little press to the elbow. With the elbow. Almost through. Or elbow knee crouch. Good. Now, I'm going to give you another angle on that from the other side. Just make sure you can see what I'm talking about. From here, what's happening? Establishing position, knee tied to the hip, on my toes, framed out, very steady. He's got strong legs, long legs. I'm going to have to break it open, slip this knee inside. Okay, on the rear end. Post this leg back. Set back. Apply pressure to that elbow. As soon as I feel those legs come undone, shoot the palms in, or back to elbow knee crouch. Okay? Alright, now, we're going to deal with 4, which are a few baby positions, and these are primarily used against, maybe you have a more experienced opponent, or they're very stubborn, very strong in a position. You're going to have to use what's called baby positions to get out of this. First one is called clamp choke. So, what's happening is I'm in this clamp, and perhaps I've already tried the tripod. I've had to go back and forth with this. He's really strong in that position. So I'm going to try to bait him to get these legs open. All right. Now, with any position, as soon as you feel those legs come undone, that's the time to vacuum those arms out and get them inside. Okay? So that's what I'm counting on here. So I'm in this position of protection. I'm going to try to bait this guy. I'm just going to press against that neck, seemingly making this arm susceptible. So I'm baiting him with this arm in the hopes that, he's going to grab it and try to maneuver into position to try some kind of arm bar. So, as I bait this arm, I'm paying attention here, but I'm also paying attention to those feet back there. Because as soon as they come undone, that's my time to escape. So I'm baiting with this, with the pressure on that neck. There. As soon as they come undone, here's what happens. I'm going to draw that arm and get those arms through. Okay? Back the palms back on the mat. So from here again, very simple, baiting with this. As soon as I feel those legs come unclasp, that's when I get out of it, okay? That's your time to escape. Tripod choke, it's the same thing. I'm back to here. He's very stubborn. I'm just going to reach forward and apply that against his neck here. Again, As soon as those things come undone, those feet come undone, that's the time to withdraw that arm and get those palms through. Okay? So from here, I'm paying attention to those feet. And that's the time to go back the palms through or the elbow knee crouch. Okay? Good. Now, C is a chance to go to a submission attempt with that pop-up to a leg submission. Now Chris is going to attempt to, I'm going to set him up on this as well. This is another setup. As I do that technique as was shown earlier, where we pop up, just like this. Okay, here's how we're going to set him up. Instead of having that wide base, we're going to move that base in just slightly. Okay, as we pull him in. Now, one technique that you'll see quite a lot is a tripping motion. He's going to grab my heels, kick his knees through, and take me to the ground. Okay, we're going to use that. So what's going to happen here is I'll pop up, and I'm being aware of this. This is what's going to happen possibly. I see him going for this. As he drops down to do the technique, I'm going to withdraw one foot. In this instance, I'm going to pull my left foot out, up and out, up and out, going between his legs with this. I'll give you another angle. From here, I'm just falling back and going into a leg lock. Okay, now I'm not going to give you the details of a leg lock until the end of this outline, but I want to show you up until then the opportunities that you have to go straight from defense to offense. So, from this angle, doing the pop-up stack, trying to set him up for this. As he drops down, okay, be aware of that. As soon as he drops down, withdraw his foot back, put it in between his legs, and just fall back, and we're into a leg lock. Now, again, I'm going to show you the details of that submission later. And one more time from this angle. So again, pop-up stack on Chris. He's dropped down. Immediately, as soon as he drops down, withdraw, put the knee in between his legs, and I'm falling back. Okay, and we're in position. Good. So that covers our breaks against the closed guard. And next we'll cover what to do against the open guard. Alright, we're back with B, open guarded, escape, and transition. So we've just finished with closed guarded break. We've broke that guard open. Now we have the opportunity to escape and transition. Okay? So part number one is high open guarded. And again, Chris is going to be on the offense here. And simply a high open guard is, just as it says, the legs are high. Okay? And this is how I'm going to approach this. From here, preferably I'm going to have both knees on the ground, again, on my toes. Now, what's happening here? Also, I'm riding his inner thighs with my arms, paying attention to what he's doing. So from here, I'm going to attempt to do what's the buried double leg. Both arms are swiveling through, just like this, okay, across his waistline. Now, as that's happening, and I'm grabbing my wrist, I'm going down the tops of my feet, okay? Now, at this point, what I'm doing, spreading the knees out, gaining a little better base, and I'm pulling him in, just like this, okay? And you'll know you're consistent with this when you feel him touch your legs, no matter who it is. So once I've maintained this position, I'll lean back forward to the toes, okay, gaining leverage again for the next position, and I'm up rowing, okay, up rowing to this position. From here, I'm going to pass, I'm going to transition by turning to my left, okay, just like this. Keeping cohesion with my chest against his legs. From here, I release this grip. My arm goes around the left side of his neck. And this helps me scoot down his body, again, closing off all space, and getting into a cross mount. Okay? Let's get this version. So what's happening here, again, both of these are on the ground, now the palms through position, on my toes, arms are swiveling in, just like this. At the same time, going down to the tops of my feet, and this is the kind of grip I have. My wrist, all right? From here, knees will spread out. I bring them in, okay, for the stack. Bring them in, lean forward, go back to the toes, and then roll them up to a stack. From here, I'm going to pass by turning to my left, maintaining cohesion. Once I feel his legs touch the ground, release the grip. The arm goes around the other side of his head. And this helps me scoot to a cross mount. Just like this. Okay, and we'll detail the cross mount later. Alright, B is bearing single leg upright cross mount. You may want to use this against an opponent who has bigger legs, or he tends to keep his legs wider. Okay, it's hard to get that grip. So what I'm doing here, everything is, the setup is same nearly on this, with the exception that one arm, whichever leg you pick, picking his right leg, my left arm is swiveling around. Just like this, across the waistline. I get that same wrist grab, that hook, no thumb. At the same time, going down to the flat top part of my feet. Spread the knees out, wheel them in, just like this. From here, lean forward, go back to the toes, and then up row to a stack. From here, I press in on that leg, maintaining cohesion. As soon as I feel that his legs touch the ground, I release that grip. Arm goes around the back of his head, and I scoot around to a cross mount. Just like this. Let's get this one. So here, on the knees, on the toes, arms are riding his legs. I'm watching what he's doing. Single leg. When I pick his right leg, my left arm swivels around, across his waistline, get this grip on my wrist. At the same time, going to the top part of my feet, reel him in, lean forward, back to the toes to get leverage. From here, stack him up, turn to that leg that you grab. As soon as you feel his leg touch the ground, you're releasing the arm, going around his neck. That allows you to scoot around to a cross mount.